There's a Democrat by the name of Andrew Yang who is proposing universal basic income type thing. It's a universal basic income type thing. But apparently Andrew Yang has a meme problem because they say the memes being spread right now are sabotage. I have noticed there are a lot of people associated with a certain section of the right who are joining the Yang Gang. They mention in this article that 4chan is inundated with something called Yang Gang. I have no idea what it is because I'm not familiar with, what they do on 4chan for the most part. But I've gotten a ton of emails from people claiming that Andrew Yang is orchestrating a conspiracy to spread memes because he wants to win by using meme warfare. And then this article pops up, but they're claiming it's sabotage. What's really happening, I have no idea, but why would someone target Andrew Yang? Apparently he's polling less than 1%. If I was going to have to make a conclusion as to where the memes were coming from, I'd have to say probably from him because no one sees him as a threat, and this is getting him press coverage. And here I am following up the press coverage of the conversation about it. Admittedly, I don't know a lot about what this guy wants. I know that he's proposing something he calls like a freedom dividend, where you get $1,000 a month. Well, you've heard my opinion on that if you watched the first episode of the Joe Rogan podcast I was on, where I said, listen, here's what I think would happen. You have people who work low-level jobs. They have to. They need money. You grant everyone $1,000. Now these people don't have to work. Their basic needs are met. They'll share a studio apartment with a buddy, and they'll go skateboarding all day, and they'll stop working at Ace Hardware or McDonald's. Now, in order to hire someone to work these jobs, you have to give them $2,000, and that's going to jack the price up on everything. So I understand what he's saying, but I don't think his plan makes sense. But let's get into the meme warfare with Andrew Yang and the Yang Gang. Andrew Yang supporters, be smart with your memes. The post appeared on the Yang for President subreddit on Thursday, warning supporters against creating anything that might reflect poorly on the candidate. I get it, the author warned. You want to show off how dark your sense of humor is. Pro-Yang memes are fine, the post argued, but the latest flood of Pepe and Trump-adjacent rage comics reinforces a stereotype we are trying to avoid. Seriously, the message closed. The memes being spread right now are sabotage. Is someone truly trying to shut down Andrew Yang, a candidate polling at around 1%? I'd have to say no. A tour through 4chan's notoriously toxic poll forum shows what the poster was so worried about. Yang is a minor player in the Democratic primary so far, an entrepreneur and political outsider with no traditional base of support. But on poll, he's the only candidate that matters. The boards are full of Yang-related memes, including familiar faces like Wojak and Pepe. One reworked the Virgin Chad meme contrasting a dejected virgin with a carefree and popular Chad to show Yang triumphing over a humiliated Trump. They're also claiming that Trump loves the Jews, therefore they don't want to vote for him. It's absolutely ridiculous. Other images are more disturbing. One meme showed Yang redistributing wealth from a Jewish banker caricature, the kind of noxious anti-Semitism that's common on poll. Another warning about meme sabotage landed on poll around the same time as the Reddit post, but the local trolls were unfazed. It's part of a larger tension for the Yang campaign, which has emerged as an unusual force in the presidential race. With only minimal experience in politics, Yang has built his campaign around the unconventional promise of a $1,000 monthly basic income, combined with Medicare for all and an economic policy he calls human-centered capitalism. Yang has found an unusual outpouring of support online, potentially earning a spot in the upcoming debates on the basis of fundraising alone. But that support has come with unusual liabilities, and enthusiasm for the candidate mutates into something uglier and harder to control, or it's sabotage. Yang's supporters, known online as the Yang Gang, seem to be drawn from across the political spectrum. According to the Daily Beast, Yang saw a surge of new supporters after an appearance on the Joe Rogan Experience in February, often a crossover point between mainstream culture and the fringe right. Yes, that is absolutely insane. You think it's the fringe right because you live in Wally World on the fringe left. We'll put it that way. At the same time, his universal basic income proposal has proven genuinely popular with younger voters disenchanted with conventional politics. He feels like someone who forms his own ideas and knows what he's talking about, one online supporter told me. And Yang Gang sounds like a dope group to be a part of. Now, I'll say this. I watched a video about Andrew Yang and his proposal for his freedom dividend, and I had to say it does sound like he actually knows what he's talking about. He talked about how you pay for it. He wants to do a value-added tax on these big companies because as these jobs go away, we need to figure out how to keep people in the economy when automation shuts down many low-level jobs. And that's true, but you have to think about economics beyond that. You can't just be like, okay, Basically what he said, and forgive me if I mischaracterized what he said, is that the big companies are going to get rid of all the little jobs. So you do a value-added tax on the company. So when they sell something, a portion of that goes to the citizens of the country as like a dividend, and they can use it to buy things and the company can flourish. That makes sense. However, not every job is going by the wayside. You're still going to have people who have to work. And if you're offering up $1,000, somebody has to work as a store clerk. Somebody has to work driving cars. People have to do these jobs, and if you give everyone $1,000, they won't have to anymore. So you have to pay them double to convince them to overcome the universal basic income that jacks up the price of every base material, and it doesn't make sense, at least not to me. But I will say, he does sound like he knows what he's talking about. That cool charisma from Yang is going to attract a lot of people. But let's continue. At the same time, white nationalist supporters have been able to pick and choose statements from Yang to support the idea that he's uniquely concerned with halting the decline of the white race. What, he's an Asian guy. They point to his recent appearance on Tucker Carlson or interpret a tweet about the opioid epidemic as broader concern about declining white birth rates. What? Sounds like someone doesn't want him to win, but I have to wonder who. He's got 1% of the polls, apparently. On 4chan, one user introduced the tweet by saying simply, Andrew Yang cares about white people. Sure. There's no indication that the campaign has courted that support. And when reached by The Verge, Yang unequivocally rejected it. I denounce and disavow hatred, bigotry, racism, white nationalism, anti-Semitism, and the alt-right in all its many forms. Full stop. Yang said in a statement, for anyone with this agenda, we do not want your support. We do not want your votes. You are not welcome in this campaign. As one of the first Asian American candidates for president in our history and the son of immigrants, I see racism and white nationalism as a threat to the core ideals of what it means to be an American, Yang continued. I have 2 young children who will grow up in this country. I know what that means. The campaign said they haven't made any particular efforts to target Trump voters, but had been drawn to unconventional outlets out of necessity. Without the clout of an established candidate, the campaign can't rely on mainstream coverage, which makes fringe outlets like Joe Rogan. Is it seriously calling Joe Rogan fringe? I'm sorry. The Verge, did you call the top podcast in the world fringe? And I'll put an asterisk next to top podcast. In terms of doing interviews, I'm fairly certain Joe Rogan is at the top. There are a few like New York Times Morning News Briefing and things like that, and it goes back and forth. So let me put it this way. Joe Rogan is one of the top 10 podcasts. You call that fringe? Wow. Or conservative outlets like Tucker Carlson, difficult to turn down. A recent appearance at a Turning Point conference seems to have been motivated by a similar logic. That approach has also attracted some strange bedfellows. On Thursday, WikiLeaks tweeted that Trump was losing the meme war to Yang, a tacit endorsement from an organization that has rarely spoken favorably about Democratic candidates. In November, prominent white supremacist Richard Spencer tweeted encouragingly about Yang's campaign, saying, everyone should take this man and his ideas seriously. Is this sabotage or what? You have to, look, there's an episode of South Park where they were arguing about whether or not they should change the flag. Jimbo, if you don't know the character, it's a character named Jimbo, convinces the KKK to vote against their wishes because everyone's going to vote against the KKK. You see, the point is, by Richard Spencer and 4chan endorsing Yang, people are going to be like, oh, I'm not going to vote for that guy. It looks like sabotage. But then I always want to make sure I point out who the hell is trying to stop the guy who's polling at like 1%. Maybe he's polling higher. I swear to God, if I'm going to piss off the Yang crew, I have no idea. So forgive me if I'm wrong. The result is a noticeable rift among Yang supporters online. Multiple subreddits have already been locked, either wary of 4chan invaders or outsiders scrutinizing their content. The infamous The Donald community has also posted Yang links, although it's unclear if it's meant as a brigading campaign or genuine support from disaffected Trump voters. I really doubt it. When hostile invaders do swarm the official subreddits, it's never clear where they're coming from. Okay, I'm going to say this. The Donald community is fairly static. If you go on Reddit and look at the Donald, you'll find that they're pretty much in agreement for the most part with what they believe. Every so often, someone will come in and say something they don't like and they'll get banned. You go to 4chan and you'll see the same thing. Fairly homogenous communities where they know what they're talking about. They're forums, they're specific for certain ideas. When I started hearing that memes specific to Andrew Yang were brigading various platforms, this sounds like astroturfing. I don't know who's doing it, but it does not seem genuine because how do you get a group of people and different accounts and sock puppets to start spamming posts about Andrew Yang on various forums? So one accusation is that Andrew Yang hired a company himself to drum up this controversy so that we talk about him. so that The Verge writes about him. And then he can say, oh no, they're trying to sabotage me. Others claim that he's actually trying to court these voters because he wants to pull them away from Trump because he knows he would need some of Trump's voters to win. I got to tell you, I don't know, but they say the brats overwhelming the sub read like are the Donald types, but who knows anymore. Another supporter told me maybe they saw an easy target as a lesser-known candidate and want to utilize their newfound abilities of misinformation on the web. It's not politics as usual, he continued. It's more like chemical warfare. So, like, they have an example of one of the memes. I don't know a lot about this guy. I actually feel kind of bad for him because, look, I'm going to say this. All the attention he's getting from, 4chan, Spencer, and other people, it's not going to be good for him at all. Because you know how the left tries to weaponize this stuff. So I doubt he did it to himself, but I don't know who would, but whatever. We'll leave it there. I got one more video coming up in a few minutes, and I will see you then.